Hi folks, how you doing this week? Finishing up week 2 of grant writing. I wanted to talk to you about the second part of the process. We've talked about the importance that we've got to have a good project. And again, our project is what? It is backpacks for low-income kids so they can have food over the weekend. So grant we're writing on behalf of the food bank. We know that stuff. So once we have a good idea of the project, then we need an idea of cost. Now, one of the things that y'all are noticing about this class is this is actually like a real grant writing experience, meaning we're waiting for data to come in. Things don't always come in conveniently on Wednesday or Tuesday or Friday the way we hope to from our client agency, but that's life with as a grant writer. But we need dollar amounts. So we know these backpacks cost about $3. We don't know how many, and what number for how many weeks, so we're still waiting on some data from the food bank. But we know what we're doing. That's step 1. Step 2 is finding out the dollar amount. And again, I'm not sure the dollar amount right now. I'm throwing out the term $10,000 just to give us a ballpark of where to look for funders. Then we begin actually looking for funding sources. Now, there are 3 sources for grants. There is the public grants, federal dollars, state dollars. These are millions of dollars, often big ticket items, very complicated application process. Remember the story I told you about how I became a grant writer in the federal grant. Very complicated application process, highly competitive, lots of follow-up. I had to write reports monthly for 60 months on that federal grant that I did. There are private foundations, which are basically charities. People believe in a certain cause. They believe in fighting hunger. They believe in promoting the outdoors, whatever, and they leave money to make sure work they believe in continues to get done after they've passed on. And the third are corporate or company foundations and corporate sponsorship for projects, which can be actually quite lucrative. I've had a number of successful grants and run a number of successful programs out of the generosity of corporations, but you've always got to think, do I want to be associated with this corporation? Often there's not a problem. HEB funded summer programs for 8 or 10 years that I worked with them, and I had no problem putting HEB on the t-shirts, on the magazines we published, on our website, things like that. No problem, because HEB does good in the community, and the reason for giving money is they want to be seen doing good in the community. They want to demonstrate that they're a good community partner. So I don't have any problem with that. But there might be some reasons not to. Maybe a company is a predatory lender toward a particular population, or maybe it's just a pawn shop. And, while Uncle Joe's a great guy, maybe your organization doesn't want to be associated with a pawn shop. Or sometimes it can be quite difficult, like a drug company or I don't know, a mining company that is wants you to do research but wants it to come out a particular way. So this is very complicated, but for the purposes of what we're talking about now, we're going to talk about private foundations. So the database that you use is the Foundation Directory Online. I have a subscription to it. It costs me about $50 a month. It's a professional expense that I use, and this really is the database you need to be using if you are going to be a grant writer and look for money for private foundations. So we've got our screen right now, and so we're going to look for grants. So we're going to search grant makers, and we're waiting for this to come on. Sorry that the web is a little bit slow. It's Wednesday afternoon. It needs its coffee. So, field of interest. Now we can do different ones. We can do food banks, we can do hunger, we can do poverty. So what we do is we look on the list of the kinds of subjects that they are important. So food banks is its own category. So we'll do food banks, meaning field of interest. Okay, and we're looking for geographic focus, where they give money to. Geographic focus, we are in Texas, last time I checked. So we are going to look in Texas, and I could do more, but let's just start and see what's here. We're looking for organizations that give in Texas. So we have 136 organizations that give in Texas. So we got a list. So how can we narrow this down? Well, we already know that we want at least $10,000, so we don't want grants that are under $10,000. So we're going to X out any grants. Well, $100 million. We're okay on that as well. We want applications that are being accepted. No, nay. I clicked on the wrong one. Hang on, I'm going to go back and hopefully it'll let me redo this. Sorry about that. So we want to get rid of all the foundations that are not accepting applications. So that cut it in half as well. Okay. And there are other ways that we could do this, but let's look at just now. Let's look at just independent foundations and get rid of company and community foundations as well. So, all right, this is the point at which there are no shortcuts. You just got Easter egg. You got to go through and look through all these foundations and find out who is giving what. So let's look at the Wolf Benevolent Trust. I just pulled that out just because. Okay, so we're looking at this. The Wolf Benevolent Trust gives in Texas, field of interest, food banks, general support information. There's an application form, retired initial contact foundation, etc. So, total giving is $69,000. They gave $61,000 last year as well. So, this is definitely a possibility. What I would do, if we're going to do this, is I would save this and go on to the next one. So this is just an example of something that we would look at. So it says, and basically you have to go through all of these. Why would you say no? Often they will say applications not accepted. Often they'll say, let's look at the Tom White Foundation as an example, just because it says giving limited to Wichita Falls, Texas. Well, we don't want to go to Wichita Falls, Texas. So basically we would use this database to find a bunch of sources, and this is the key component, you contact that funding source, and with a quick email or a quick phone call. I prefer phone calls initially, and then if they don't work, then I'll go to emails as well. And you say, hi, I am me, Joe Smith, Chuck Etheridge. I'm a volunteer grant writer working on behalf of the Food Bank of Corpus Christi, hoping to get $20,000 to fund a backpack program to help ensure that low-income kids who are dependent on school lunches have food over the weekend. Is this a program that the Joe Bob Foundation would consider funding? And if the answer is yes, good, you got it. So, and then you get a hold of their actual criteria. Now, I've just quickly pulled up some criteria off of another grant, and then you read it. And I tell people you need to read the request for proposals, the funding criteria, like they're the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and every letter you've gotten from every person you've ever been most romantically attached to. And I mean that seriously, because they give you various sets of criteria, and you make sure that you meet it. So here's an example. This is a grant, and I'm going to use this as an example for a couple of weeks. This is a grant that I actually got money for. Healthy Living with Texas Produce. It was a couple years ago. In an effort to put more local produce on Texas tables, Texas Department of Agriculture's Go Texan program is connecting farmers markets, local growers, and the health industry across the state. Through this grant, farmers markets and Lone Star State are invited to partner with local hospital clinic. Key information. You're a farmer market. You got to partner with a local hospital clinic to host a nutrition demonstrating highlighting specialty crops. And it's up to $1,000. So look at this. You got to be a farmer's market to apply. You got to partner with a hospital. You got to highlight Texas crops. And you've got to do a nutrition demonstration as well. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you must be a certified farmer's market, partner with a local hospital. You have to have 4 events between the time frames of May and November. You have to demonstrate that you comply with all food handling and cooking demonstration requirements, and they must be received by a particular time and a particular date, and very specific criteria, which are the application form, summary, name of the hospital, etc. So you see my point. This is your homework. This tells you what to do. So what have we learned so far? You got to have a good proposal. You got to have a rough idea of what it's going to cost. Then you identify some possible funding sources. You read them very, very, very carefully, and then you make contact with your funding source and find out, hey, is it possible for us to send an application to this person? And y'all are going to be doing this work. I'm not going to be doing this. So that's a lot of information, but that's where we're at so far in week 2 of English 4321. Thanks.